Alright, so welcome to the second video in the mission template tutorial. In this one, we'll be taking a tour throughout the actual editor part of the template. So in part 1, you imported the template to your MP missions folder, so now we're going to open it by going to Open, MP missions, and then I have it in the subfolder, but you just probably have it in your base MP missions folder. So open it up. For the purposes of this tour, I've just kept it on VR. So here, as soon as we load in, we'll see a couple of comments. So up here at the top is just the name of this section of the template. So this is the intro stuff. So this first one in the northwest is just a reminder that to configure the script settings, you have to go to the config.sqf file in the mission folder. On the top right is just a reminder to read every comment and its tooltip. So hover over it and you see it, or if you just double click it, then you can just go to the tooltip section to see it. In the bottom left, we have a text tutorial on how to change the faction. There's a few different ways to do that. I'll cover actual examples of doing that later in a different video. And then in the bottom right is changing maps. So again, it's just the world folder name. You just change .vr to .mapcode of that map. And one way you can find the map code is by loading that map up in the editor, going up to Tools, and going to the debug console and typing in world name and hitting local execute. And you see VR, so the map code is VR. So you just name your folder mymission.vr. Alright, up next, let's go ahead and go up to the north. I will actually go ahead and grab this blank comment as my mouse, since I don't think it's recording my mouse. Alright, so the name of this section is the useful examples section. So this isn't actually part of the template, it's just a series of examples that you might find useful. So in the first one's up is the task template, so useful if you want to make tasks in Eden. So it's pretty simple. The center two pieces are the create task module. The one on the left is the actual create task, so we'll just run that by. We have a couple of variable names set up. All playable units will get the task, and here's the title. Description here, state is just default created, and marker as well. And also note destination is set to synchronize object. So you just synchronize any object, in this case say invisible texture, and then the task will show as it being located wherever this invisible object is located at. Now connected to that is a trigger. You can see that its condition is just set to true, so just activate at mission start, and this will activate the task so that it will appear to all the players because it is set to all playable units for the owner. Now connected to that on the right is the set task state module. So you can see here that it's set to succeed. So when this trigger connected to it fires, then it'll update this create task module to the status of succeeded. So you can do, like in this trigger on the right side, you can do an area thing where op4 is not present in the 50 meters in it, then it'll complete, and it'll make the task completed. Next up is just a note about the edit terrain object module. This module does not work on dedicated servers, so you cannot use it to like make a building destroyed if you want the ambience. Instead, you'll just have to use a hide terrain module, which I'll get to in a second, to hide that building, and then you can just replace it with a ruin building model like that. Alright, up next is the hide terrain module. So just want to point out one thing with this is that when you use it, you gotta make sure to take the operate locally box or it won't work in multiplayer. Next up, we just have an ammo helmet. So this is set to just become invisible on mission start. You can see that show model is unticked, and also disable damage is enabled. And then all the way at the bottom under ACE options, it's a repair vehicle, it's a medical vehicle, it's an ammo vehicle. So this is just useful if you have planes in your mission you can just place this nearby and players will be able to rearm their planes because there's an ammo vehicle nearby. And the best part is that it is invincible and invisible, so you can just toss it in a wall or something like that. Actually, don't toss it in a wall, it'll probably still blow up. Put just somewhere nearby. Alright, next up is a dialogue template. So this is pretty simple. A player walks in here, they'll just get some subtitles at the bottom of their screen saying whatever you set it to. So for example, you can replace speaker 1 with rifleman 1. Like it's a hot day or whatever. And then the number after that is just the time since the start of the conversation to play it. So here, everything plays 5 seconds after each other. Next up is just an example of how to do a LAMS task. For example, this is a patrol task. There's also garrisons and camps that you can place. So how you use it is that you only have to sync it to the group leader. Not all the units in the group, just the group leader. And then, of course, edit it and configure any options you want. But generally speaking, the defaults are pretty good. The next is just a couple of commands that you can use on the AI. For example, do stop this. You can just go to the object init and do stop this, and that'll make it so they don't move around until they get into contact. Same here for this disable path. Instead, this will just remove their ability to walk around at all, although they'll still be able to turn around and shoot. So you can do that via the object init box, or you can go down here to the object AI box and just hit path to disable that. You need 3D enhanced mod for that checkbox to appear though. Over here is an example of how to disable the automatic headless client transfer on a group. For example, if these guys are connected on to a LAMS task, you don't want them to be transferred via headless client because then their scripting will get all messed up. So that's pretty simple. You just select the group and then under ACE options, you just hit headless blacklist. Just toggle that check mark. Then 2 last things. This first thing is the spawn AI trigger. So you use this in conjunction with the AI caching script covered in a different video, and it will spawn the given layer when it is triggered. So see the other tutorial video on how to use this system. Then finally, these are just 2 triggers set up to use any custom mission you use in your mission. So you can see the tutorial for how to do that in the comment, and then you would just go to the module, note how it's activated by a radio trigger, but you could also do any other activation method, and then all the way at the bottom under effects it is set to play the music example sound 2. So your sound thing will just show up somewhere in this list with the name you configure for it. Alright, that's all the examples, and then once you've read them and you've copied any that you're going to use in your mission, you can just go ahead and delete those. Next, in the bottom left of the template, we have the just generic baseline modules needed for other things to function. So there's really not anything here for you to modify. I'll just go through it just so that you know what they are. So in the bottom left is just a simple diary record that just tells the players who is on what radio net. Note that this is not automatic. This is just configured according to the defaults that the various squads are set to. So if you change what squad is on what radio net by going to their options and scrolling down to the TFAR settings, then it will not automatically copy over into this module. Next up is just a Zeus module, so we just have one Zeus module for each of the 3 Zeus characters, and then we have an extra Zeus module for the whoever's logged in as admin. Just generally speaking, just leave all of them there. Don't modify them unless you're adding more Zeuses, in which case copy paste and adjust the owner variable name as needed. And then last thing is the 3 headless clients. So again, not really anything for you to touch with those. Although if your mission is very big, then it's usually better for the AI to function if you move the headless clients to somewhere in the middle of the AO. Because if AI are more than like 10 kilometers from the headless clients, then some of their information sharing gets kind of weird for some reason, because ARMA code, you know. And then we also have two more comments off in the side. So this one is just saying that if you want to configure a custom preset for Ace Fortify, then you just go to description.ext, and there's instructions there on how to add it. Then finally, this other comment just says that there's invisible markers here. Just leave them. They're needed for the rally point script. They will do absolutely nothing if that script is disabled. There's no point in deleting, just leave them as is, and they will be fine. Next, we have the side-agnostic items in the spawn area. So this just means that no matter which player side you pick, these objects are useful anyways. So we'll just start in the top left. This is the logistics vehicle. So note how it is named logistics_vehicle, all lowercase. You need a vehicle named this for the fob system to work. And also, if you have the respawn in vehicle system enabled, but you haven't set anything up as respawn VIX, then it'll default to using this. Then also note that the scripts will still work if it uses a vehicle respawn, but that it will not preserve the wreck when destroyed because ARMA. Next, we have the create resupply object. So this is enabled by default in the script settings, where you can disable it if you want in config.sqf, and you can also just delete it for it to automatically be disabled. But what it does is that a player can walk up to it, there's an action attached, and it'll spawn a nice resupply crate containing ammo, grenades, medical for the players. So this is useful if you want your players to be doing logistics without needing you as a Zeus to spawn them a resupply crate every now and then. Next, in the top right is the automatic repair zone. So it's pretty simple. Players drive a vehicle in here, and it will be rearmed, refueled, repaired. That's the last R and triple R. Now, in the bottom left is just our 3 Zeuses. Just always leave the 3 Zeuses unless you don't, like, there are very few cases that you don't want 3 Zeuses. Even if you think that it's just going to be you Zeusing, just leave the other ones. Next up, we have the 4 respawn points. There's one for every side, including civilian. If you're only going to have blue 4 players in your mission, then just keep all the respawns, because maybe you will need to change someone to op 4 for some reason, or it'll just happen accidentally and they die, and you've removed the respawn point. Then you can have issues with them not being able to respawn. Just leave them all present. Don't delete the ones you're not going to use, because who knows when you might need to use them. Now, right to the north of that is the Ace Heal object. So this is just a simple Huron medical container. It's needed for 2 scripts that, again, you can enable or disable in config.sqf. By default, they are both enabled. Those are the Ace Heal object and the Ace Spectate object. So the Heal object just attaches a action to it that players can use, and it'll heal everyone within like 100 meters. And then the second allows players to go into spectator mode. And just in case that you really mess up with your arsenals, there's also a limited Ace arsenal attached to it that has medical items. In case that you forget to add any to your regular arsenals, it's good to have backup. Next, we have the actual arsenals. So these 2 down here are just full arsenals. You can see it configured in their code, and also note how they're labeled arsenal_number. So there's a few scripts that require your arsenals to be numbered arsenal 1 through 10. So just name all your arsenals, arsenal_, and then a number between 1 and 10. So these 2 bottom ones are just infinite arsenals, and then the top one is a limited arsenal, already pre-configured with some cosmetics. So if you want to make a limited arsenal, you should probably start with this one, because it already has added all the medical items, so you won't need to add them yourself. It's also added some of the vanilla face wares for swag reasons, so that just saves you a bit of clicking. And then while I'm at it, just a quick tutorial about adding items to the arsenals. Instead of just going through and clicking each single one, you can just hold the arrow keys, right arrow key to add something, and up or down arrow key to move. So you can just hold it, and as you see, sometimes it might skip over an option, but then you can just do a second pass later. Oh look, it's not skipping over any right now. And that just saves a lot of clicking when you're adding things to the arsenals. Alright, so that's it for this section. And now we'll go to the final section, which is the players. So it's pretty simple. There's just some presets provided. So there's a command team, officer, etc., JTAC, medic, whatever. There's a recon team. There's a couple of air teams if you have air assets. And there's two ground asset teams, like stuff like tanks. And then you have your 4 standard 8-man infantry squads as well. So if you don't have like air in your mission, then just feel free to go ahead and delete that. And then just pick what side or sides you're going to use, and then you can just delete the others. And boom, that's all you have to do with them. And then last thing, I'll go ahead and go through the mission attributes that are configured in Eden. So you have general settings. There's no title by default. Please do not put a title, because if you make multiple versions of your mission for like bug fixing, then if they have a title, they'll all have the same title. And that's just annoying. Just leave this blank, and it'll just default to the name of the mission folder, which is much easier because it's labeled V1 or V2 or whatever version that you've uploaded to the server. Then author will just automatically be your name thanks to some scripts you have. Overview, you can put some text or picture in here, blah blah blah. This next part is important. It's the independence allegiance. So this is what side Infor is friendly to. So by default, they're not friendly to both Blue 4 and Op 4. And that's the only important things there. Environments is just stuff on the default, so you can change it however you want. Multiplayer, by default, we're on respawn custom position with 10-second delay. You can change this as is, but generally speaking, always have it be respawn in custom position. Make sure to have any number besides 0 for the respawn delay, and make sure to always have these two options, or else the respawns will break. Select respawn position and show respawn counter. And as long as you have things configured like that, everything should be fine for the respawn. And that is about it for the mission template tour.